gonna get around to starting this video, but I just found this BuzzFeed quiz and I have to know my exact age based on my cheese choices. Hi, I'm Kara, and you're watching my channel, Kara C. This channel is all about my journey to finding my path to greatness, and today I'm gonna be talking about something that I struggle with, and I'm betting you've probably struggled with at some point in your life: procrastination. I am 100% a procrastinator, but not about everything, just about some things. I think in order to beat procrastination, I need to really analyze why I procrastinate and come up with some ways to get past the roadblocks I'm having with procrastination. So I'm gonna go to someone who understands me and my essence as a person, and maybe also is a slight procrastinator, my good friend Tristan. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, how are you doing?
I got a great start to my day. I watched 3 hours of YouTube videos.
So you got right up and just started working on your projects, like
yes,
you said.
We've been working on this podcast together for several months now. And
working on.
I feel like we keep trying to start it, but I keep procrastinating and putting that off. And then also, sometimes we work on it to procrastinate from other things. So I'm just trying to get to the bottom of why we as a people procrastinate.
To paraphrase Ellen, and we love Ellen.
So I sat down at my desk and I was staring at my desk and I thought, wow, that's dusty. I can't write with my desk all dusty like this. So I went downstairs to get a rag, and on the way downstairs, my kitten was on the stairway playing with a piece of dust or something, and I sat down, I was petting the cat for about, I don't know, 45 minutes, something like that, and then I went downstairs, and by that time I'd forgotten why I went downstairs, and I was staring around trying to remember, and I thought, I should paint this room.
It feels good to not do the things that we are supposed to be doing, I think, and I think it's super easy to get in the process of having really good, big ideas. I think we don't understand how much it's going to take to really put those ideas into action, and we think that we can do everything, and that's not usually the case. We usually need people helping us, and we often forget that life gets in the way, and we don't really schedule life, and we don't take that into consideration when we're thinking about our great ideas. So I think that the idea part comes pretty easily because that's the fun, creative part. But when it comes to putting those plans into action, we come across so many problems with that we maybe didn't foresee, and then that kind of pushes us to procrastinate on it more.
Tristan is right. Often when I have an idea, I picture the end result, but not necessarily all of the work involved to get to that end result. And when I do sit down to start, it can feel very daunting with how much work is ahead of me. The biggest example for me is trying to lose weight. I want to lose weight, but the thought of spending days on end eating well and exercising regularly when I am out of shape, it just is very overwhelming, and it makes it hard to want to get started.
I think that there's people that often they perform well under pressure, and I'm definitely guilty of that. And so I know that I'm going to procrastinate, but I also know that I'm going to deliver it eventually. And I think that procrastination is part of my plan, which kind of sounds crazy, but I think that I perform better when under pressure. And so I often wait for the last minute to do so. And since it's worked out for me in the past, I know that I will be delivering eventually. So it doesn't really bother me all that much.
I don't know that I'm as much of a procrastinator because I know I can crank something out at the end, although I think I usually can, but I think I get so overwhelmed by even starting a project that I just don't. And I think like the closer to the deadline that I get, and like the bigger of a chunk, instead of like chunking the tasks down smaller, I just still have this big giant project that now like I haven't worked anything towards, that it gets so overwhelming that like I just continue to put it off. And I don't think, for me, that like trying to crank stuff out at the end and procrastinating, like it's not something that I really enjoy doing. Like it's not something that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it so good right at the end.
If you're doing something creative and not a different project than your 9 to 5 or whatever your current work is, we forget that we have to go to work every day, and we're so exhausted from the actual work that we get paid for, that our creative projects often get, we forget about that, or we don't forget about them, but we spend less time doing them because we're so exhausted from just trying to live. And I don't think that is part of the planning stage a lot of the time.
So how do you beat procrastination? I think the first step is to analyze if what you're trying to accomplish is something that you really actually want. The biggest thing that I think could help me is at the time that I'm like taking on a project or planning a project, is asking myself, like, is this something I really want? And not just thinking about like the idea, but actually thinking about the planning and what all that entails. And is that something I actually can pursue in the time frame I'm giving myself, is probably the first step.
At least knowing you for how long I've known you, I feel like you are a very big idea person. And I think that you have a lot of really great ideas. The problem with executing those ideas is that the projects that you have are very big, and it would be difficult for anyone to do all of the steps that you need to complete that project. And I think that when we're thinking about it and we're in the creative process of that, we're envisioning ourselves doing every single thing along the way, and we don't take into consideration how long that would actually take and how much work that's going to be. So I can relate to that definitely, because I love, big grandiose ideas, but it's difficult to execute those tasks as one person.
Be realistic with your time. Creating a schedule and a plan where you can kind of chunk down the pieces of the overall puzzle will definitely help, at least especially for me, with feeling overwhelmed. I think we often don't think how much time things are gonna take. Like, things always take longer than we think they're gonna take, like always. I don't remember any time that I've ever done, I've done things in the past, but usually if I'm working on a project or doing something, I always wanna put my best effort into it. And so I will spend hours on like what I think in my head should be like, oh, that'll take 10 minutes, but it doesn't. It takes 2 hours because I want it to be like a certain level of good. Don't expect perfectionism.
I think that knowing you for as long as I have, I think that you're a little bit of a perfectionist. And so I can relate to that a little bit too, because we put so much effort into trying to do it right the first time. Like, that's gonna be our only chance. And that's not really how the world works. You don't always get a second chance, but you can always learn from what you did and improve on that. And your final product doesn't have to be the first time you run through it or your first attempt at it, I think. And I think that when we don't do that perfect thing the first time, that just contributes to you wanting to procrastinate, because in your head, you failed a little bit, even though you did something. It wasn't perfect, and it probably never will be the first time. But I think that contributes to procrastination when what we saw in our head isn't the end product.
Mm-hmm. It's okay to take time for yourself. You can't beat yourself up about procrastinating, because you do have to make time for yourself.
I think that when we are thinking about procrastination, we kind of lump resting into procrastination, which is something that we need to live. Like if you're not well rested, if your brain is foggy, you're not going to be putting out your best work. And so I'm the same way when I'm resting or just kind of doing whatever, like lounging, watching YouTube videos or watching Netflix or something like that. I don't necessarily think of that as resting. I'm procrastinating because I think that I probably could be contributing something more valuable with my time. And I think that's a little bit unfair. We don't really consider rest. It's kind of all procrastination, and that's just, rest is something that we need to do. And if we're not doing it, it's detrimental to us.
I think our culture in the present day is so caught up in like the hustle and work harder and the ultra boss babe lifestyle that we don't really focus on taking care of ourselves as much. It's all about winning in the workplace and like winning at entrepreneurship. And maybe it's just me, but I feel like that is a real driving force behind like everything that I do. My biggest thing with my procrastination like leading up to now is that I do tend to make myself feel guilty if I put things off, or if like if I spend like 2 hours watching TV instead of working on something that I wanted to get done. It doesn't have to be like that. So I'm gonna tell myself right now, take time for yourself. You're worth it.
Yeah, I think that we need to be more kind to ourselves and give ourselves a little bit more credit and time to do the projects that we are passionate about.
I don't think that my procrastination ends here, but I hope that by analyzing the work ahead before I take on another project, and by scheduling and chunking down the time that the projects I'm working on take, that over time I can get to a place where I'm at peace with the amount of work that I have in the time I've allotted to make that happen. And in the meantime, I'll be taking all those good BuzzFeed quizzes. A huge shout out to my friend Tristan for helping me out with this video. If you want to follow up with him on social media or see the projects he's working on, I will leave some links below in the description, as well as some resources that could help you with dealing with procrastination. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure you check out this playlist right here. And as always, my friends, strive valiantly.